Okay, so I didn't watch the entire weigh-in for Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. However, I saw the main fight, which is pretty much all I was really interested in. Again, that seems to be a theme with the Sky Sports cards at the moment. One really intriguing fight and then a whole lot of filler underneath that. But it is what it is. There's probably one or two other fights I'm interested to see. I just don't remember their names at this particular time. Now, the one thing I did see was that Josh Taylor looked very dry and sucked in this weigh-in, and it looked a bit more sort of drawn in than I've seen him before, but apparently this is the most comfortable he's made the weight. Now, maybe it is a bit more comfortable because he's not cutting the same corners he may have been cutting before. I'm not accusing him of that, I'm just saying possibly. But then, because he's getting older and his body naturally wants to, I guess, sort of bulk up and thicken out a bit, maybe even though he thinks it's been easier to make the weight, his body obviously is physically changing more every time he does draw that weight down. So that, to be honest, leads me to believing that Jack Catterall could make this fight very competitive, especially if Josh Taylor doesn't have much left in the tank. And being a southpaw for Jack Catterall is always gonna be a tricky night. That mirror image of yourself in the ring isn't always a pleasant experience to be a part of. Now, I could necessarily talk about the way they fight, but to be honest, I've seen maybe 2 of Jack Catterall's fights and I wasn't impressed in either one of them. But this is his world title shot, so I'm sure he's going to be coming to bring a lot more heat than he normally does. Josh Taylor, on the other hand, he can get drawn into scraps more than he should, but he's got the boxing IQ and acumen to be able to get out of that situation. So, if I give a rough prediction, there it is. I feel as if the fight is going to be competitive for the first 4 to 5 rounds. Both men are going to have success. I think that Catterall will land a couple of heavier shots than Taylor's expecting. In the midst of that, I think Josh will make some minor adjustments to maybe try and nullify some of what Catterall is doing, and he's going to try and attempt to move himself onto the inside. Now, I've always said that he can fight on the inside, but he's not a good inside fighter, and a lot of people will sort of look at me like, what are you talking about? Now, essentially, when he's on the inside, he leaves himself like he's not safe when he enters the phone booth. He's very gung-ho in his approach, which obviously can leave him open to taking counter shots, which is kind of what happened a little bit within the Prograis fight. And he normally only goes onto the inside when he wants a scrap. So if Jack Catterall can rile him up enough in the ring to make him want to go into fight mode, he could very well walk him onto that left hand and cause a lot of drama from that overhand left. But, okay, so in my infinite wisdom, I see this fight being competitive again for the first 4 to 5 rounds. After that, I believe Taylor will start to make some minor adjustments. He'll have enough in the gas tank to try and go through the gears. And I think that in front of his home crowd, Josh Taylor wins the fight via unanimous decision. I don't see a stoppage happening at this point in time. So that's what I'm going to go with for the moment. And next time you see me, the clothes will be different. I'll be doing the prediction for Okolie, Cieslak, and maybe a couple other fights on that card because it's a bit more interesting. Okay, just watched the weigh-in for LawrenceOkolie versus Michal Cieslak, and there was a nice bit of kidology in there from LawrenceOkolie, eating a little bit of a brownie before stepping on the scales. It was about 199.4, and he looked in pretty good nick, like didn't look drawn in, didn't look dry, like he looked fully hydrated. So while it may not be the easiest of tasks making the weight, it seems like his body is still reacting comfortably to it. And yeah, like I said, he looked quite he still looked sort of quite hydrated. So that now determines how I feel this fight goes. I was going to talk about sort of the rest of the card, but yeah, because I only did one for Josh Taylor, I feel like it's only right I do one for this, even though there are more people that I know. But I'll give a summary of that later on. So where I think this fight is won and lost is in the early rounds. And what I mean is I don't think the fight ends early, but I think whoever controls the early part of the fight will be the person that ultimately wins. Now, we all know Lawrence has not as much of a height advantage over Cieslak as he's had over most of his other opponents. I think Cieslak's like 6'4", or maybe 6'3" and a half, but he's not too much smaller than Lawrence, and Lawrence is 6'5". Now, I don't think Lawrence had his had trainers on when they were doing their face-to-face, so maybe their heights looked a little closer because of that. But I know that their reach aren't that much different either. So his main tactic to win this fight is obviously, as the bigger guy, to box tall and to box long. Not to crouch down to his opponent's level, giving him easier access to, to the chin, to the temples. Like, you want to make him have to loop all of his shots upwards, because you don't get as much power on a shot that you have to, traject upwards, as opposed to either straight or even going down. Like, there's a lot more force you have to generate to land the same power. So by doing that and by keeping it long, even if his opponent does catch him from time to time, he has to exert more force to do it each and every time he throws, which might then make him have to reset more often, or maybe even shake out the arms, which then gives you your opportunities to come back with your straight shots. Now, where it gets interesting is if this fight becomes an inside battle, where Cieslak is able to get in underneath the jab and literally work his way onto the inside and keep it very much like inside to mid-range. Now, we all know Lawrence isn't the greatest of inside fighters. He actually has been getting a lot better. He doesn't hold and grapple nearly as much as he used to early on in his career, so we got to give him that. But you would suspect that the person who's on the smaller end is going to aim for that kill box at pretty much all times. And if you stay on the inside of the kill box, then you're less likely to get hurt. But if you stay on the outside of it, there's more chance that something's going to come back at you. Now, if we look at the Dillian Prasovic fight, in that fight, Lawrence was very he didn't really look nervy, but he acted nervy. Like, a lot of the shots that he was throwing when he was trying to just get Dillian out of there early, they were sort of very like wild. Not in terms of, they were all over the place, but they were shots that didn't need to be thrown. He wasn't setting them up. He was literally just sort of swinging, trying to connect. Whereas had he picked those shots a bit better, like, used his jab better as the rangefinder, he probably would have got him out a round earlier than he did, maybe even 2 rounds. So yeah, personally, I feel like if he can establish his dominance and control within the first 2 or 3 rounds, I reckon the fight's over in 6. As an absolute, yeah, I reckon 6, maximum 7, purely because of his, number 1, the punching power, but number 2, he's got pretty good accuracy and he's quite spiteful with the shots. He will put pretty much all of his body weight into every shot he throws. Now, if the gas tank isn't A1, which it might not be, like he hasn't had to use it in a long while. You know, sometimes when people do get, when they do sort of get in love and sort of get in touch with that power and they love it, sometimes they start sacrificing other things, just working on the power and trying to land it, you know, a la Deontay Wilder. And we kind of see how that works with his gas tank. Everything is very low output. Lawrence needs to be busy because Cieslak will be busy. If we look at the fight with him and Makabu, he was sort of very active and very sort of keen to try and impress almost, because, you know, judges against the champion, you got to make it look like you're doing things. But in that fight, the difference being he was the taller guy, boxing almost the wrong style for that fight. This time he gets to implement what Makabu would have been doing on him in that one. All right, so temporary analysis aside, I reckon, so this fight's obviously going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to end up on the scorecards with probably a UD that maybe shouldn't be a UD, maybe more like a split decision, or even possibly a majority decision. But I do see Lawrence winning. That's one way. But my prediction is that Lawrence gets his rhythm. It's going to be very tense and competitive for like the first 4 to 5 rounds. Lawrence will sort of start to find his range a bit more. He will get a bit more forceful, a bit more experimental with some shots. He'll take some chances. I reckon he could even get clipped somewhere early and have to sort of battle through that adversity of taking those shots. But I'm predicting for Lawrence to win the fight either via knockout TKO within round between 9 and 11, somewhere within that range. 9, yeah, I'm going to say between rounds 9 and 11. Now there's every chance, again, it could happen earlier. But yeah, I mean, I can't discount sort of the level of challenger that Cieslak is. And clearly he's hungry for another opportunity. I don't think this is just a payday to him. So yeah. But that is my prediction. Lawrence comes through sort of maybe an earlier crisis or an earlier storm and sort of gets the victory between rounds 9 to 11. But ultimately, if you just want to hedge your bets, I say LawrenceOkolie win inside the distance. Also, shout out to Galal Yafai. I haven't seen enough of him, but obviously I have watched like his victory in the Olympics, so I do know that he's talented. Coming in on his professional debut in a 10-rounder, ballsy, like gotta give him all the props in the world, and I hope he comes through, but I haven't seen the opponent, so I can't make any prediction on that. Fabio Wardley will beat Daniel Martz quite comfortably. Dempsey McKean will beat Bracamonte, probably by stoppage as well. The interesting one of these fights, I suppose, will be actually the Campbell-Hatton fight, because his opponent is a win one, lose one, win one kind of guy. So look for Campbell to win that on points. Possibly controversial, just like the last time he was on British soil. But yeah, I'll leave it there. You know, the other fights, Girthy and Gil, be a good fight, but again, I don't know much about Girthy, if I'm gonna be real, and I don't particularly care too much for Gil either. Neither of them are punchers, so look for that one to go 12 rounds, and then yeah, whoever implemented their style best wins. But for now, I've got some other things to do. I'm gonna leave it there. The update to this will come out either first thing Monday morning, or again, it will be first thing on Tuesday, to not coincide with any undefeated podcast content. So thanks for listening. Leave your predictions down below. Let's see who gets them right. Always willing to take bragging rights over others. You know, take my L's like a man, take the wins like one as well. It's all good. But for now, basis picks locked.